Hello everyone. Today my topic of discussion is data compression. Data compression is not only a topic which is important in terms of student study perspective, but also very important in terms of research and other various applications. So if we understand data compression from real life scenario, we can have to understand a compression of natural gas. How we can compress a natural gas and how we can use that gas for a cooking purpose. So we actually acquire the natural gas from mines or from different different parts of our nature in a high volume, and it is very difficult to handle that high volume of gas. We cannot handle it, not in terms of it is very difficult in terms of handling, in terms of transportability. It is very difficult in terms of volume of handling that gas. So that's why we are trying to use some sort of compression technique. In terms of natural gas, we actually compress the gas with high pressure and try to reduce the volume of that gas, and which we can use for our home cooking purpose. And it is not only we can use for a home cooking purpose, but also it is useful for a easy transportation, right? So here we will continue with our compression technique, but here we are representing our compression technique in terms of digital data. That means the data, whatever data we are using in terms of computer communications, that means whatever data we are transferring from one end of the network to another end in terms of computer communication. So data, generally this data compression part, this term consists of two subterms. One is data, another one is compression. So data is something which is information. You may consider as a raw information of 0 and 10 bit. I am talking about digital point of view, from computer communication point of view. So data is a combination of 0 and 10 source of information, whereas compression is a technique by which we can reduce the size of the data. Obviously we have a set of advantages of using that compression technique. These are the set of advantages that we generally get after applying the different data compression technique. So data compression technique consists of these three advantages: less memory, less transmission time, less bandwidth occupancy. As the example I have given to you in terms of LPG, natural gas, in terms of cooking gas formation, that we can compress the size of the volume of the gas, and we can easily transmit that gas from that nature to our individual homing system. So here if we will be able to compress the size of the digital data which we are transmitting from one part of the network to another part, then we can also get advantage in terms of network bandwidth. That means it will occupy less network bandwidth, in just as similar with that natural gas volume compression. Not only that, it also occupies less memory. So in natural gas, if we make a compression on that natural gas, we can pour that gas into a small cylinders which will be applicable for a cooking purpose. So it actually reduces the volume of the gas. So in the same way, we actually reduces the volume of the memory if we apply various compression algorithm on digital data. Besides these two advantages, one extra advantage we will get, that is transmission time. Obviously, if the size of the volume will reduce, if the transportation of the reduced volume is reliable, then we will achieve less compression, less transmission time compared to transmitting a high file size, a high volume size, or huge file size. So here I am giving one example, very simple example in terms of data dictionary, where we achieve that here two columns are there. We can assume this one as a basic dictionary. So left column will represent the data, right column will represent the index. So left column will represent some repetitive characters of data. Actually, data compression is such a technique in terms of computer communication, in terms of digital data. The characters which are mainly coming in repetitive fashions, we are trying to reduce that repetition or redundancy of data. So this is an example, a very basic example, where we are trying to reduce the redundancy of the data. So we are looking here the redundancy of the data, like the data redundancy of character A, redundancy of character B, and so on. So instead of we are reducing the size of the, we are representing the redundant characters, we are representing the characters by the help of a single digit, single number. So obviously from here, if you consider each and every character will occupy 1 bit, suppose we consider each and every character will occupy 1 bit of memory size, then these 3 characters will be represented by 3 bit of memory size. Instead of that, this one number will represent by 1 bit of memory size. So this is a very basic example of data dictionary where we can apply a compression technique. Now I have already discussed the data compression is such a technique by which we can represent information source, especially a large files. It may be audio file, it may be video files, or it may be any sort of large file which is not represented in terms of kilobyte, or it can be also represented in terms of megabyte as well as gigabyte. So whenever we are dealing with large files in terms of network communication, in terms of computer communication, we will face lots of problems regarding these 3 issues. So the data compression technique help us to represent that large volume or large file size as using a fewest number of bits of as possible. So if we consider this example, just forget about the name of the algorithm. If we consider this example, suppose this is a repetitive characters, we are representing an input string or input sentence we have given. What I have already told, data compression is such a technique by which we can reduce the size of redundancy of the same character or repetitiveness of the same character. So if we consider this one where the B character has repeated 4 times, H repeated 2 times, D repeated 2 times, in the same way the other character repeated multiple times. So our compression technique's main objective is to reduce the repetitive character redundancy characters. So how it can reduce it? Suppose we are instead of we are representing the 4B, we are representing by 2 numbers. The first number will represent the number of repetition, the number of redundancy of the character, and the second number followed by that first number will represent the name, the character name, which will be repeated that number of times. So here 4 represents the number of times B will repetitive in input string. So here B is repeated 4 times, so that's why 4B. Here H is repeated 2 times, that's why 2H. Here D is repeated 2 times, that's why 2D. In this way, the others characters will be repetitive character will be represented by a number as well as a text. Okay. So here if we consider this as a 8-bit Ascii system. So in computer communication we are using various type of processing system like 8-bit system, 16-bit system. Based on the size of the processor, this Ascii bit system will be different. So suppose 8-bit is a very basic Ascii bit system. What is the formation of 8-bit? 8-bit is such a system where each and every letter will be represented by 8 different values of 0, 1, 1, 0, like that. So here a character will be represented by 8 different values of 0 and 1, 0. If we are using, instead of 8-bit, if we are using 16-bit processor, then instead of 8 different 0 and 1, 0 combination, we will represent each and every character by 16 different 0 and 1, 0 combinations. So in this way, so for sake of simplicity, we are taking 8-bit Ascii representation. So here, if we are consider this input string, then how many characters are there in the input string? There are total 22 characters in the input string. So each and every character will be represented by 8 bits in an 8-bit Ascii character system. Then total 22 character will be represented by 22 into 8, 176 bits. So the original size of the file before we are applying a compression technique will be 176 bits. Now after applying this technique, that is represent each and every character by a number and followed by the name of the character, we will represent this 22 characters by 14 characters. So 14 into 8, here again each and every character will be represented by 8 bits. So 14 into 8, 112 bits. So in this way we can reduce the size of a characters or size of a text, whatever we are trying to send. Okay. And this technique is one of the very basic and very famous technique which is called as run length encoding. Why it is called run length? Because the running length will be trying to reduce in this technique. Running length means the same character is repeated multiple times. So we are trying to reduce the length which are running in multiple times or redundant times into a small size. So that's we have done in RLE compression technique. So this is one of the important algorithm. After this, we are going to learn another very important and heavily used algorithm, that is Huffman encoding algorithm, which is also applicable for reducing the size of a large text, but that Huffman algorithm gives a better compression ratio in terms of accuracy compared to run length encoding, because this is the most basic one and most simplest one. And this algorithm also has some disadvantage. This disadvantage is that if we are trying to reduce repetitive two characters by the RLE technique, then this two character will be represented by again two characters, 2D. So 2 is the number of repetition, D is the followed by the character. So you are trying to reduce 16 bit by again 16 bit. So there is no compression technique. Beside that, there will be one more problem you will face in this technique. If there is only one character, there is no repetition, then there will be a problem is that one character will be represented by 2 bit, because 1 will be the first one and followed by the character name. So 1 bit character is the input character of your input string, but you are trying to reduce that character by using 2 bit, which you are not actually do here. Okay, you are not doing a compression, you actually enlarge the size of the input text. So these are the two main disadvantage in run length encoding. So those disadvantages can be removed by the next algorithm, that is Huffman encoding algorithm, and we will discuss it in our next lecture.